With Radio Algeria International, you will not miss a single major political or economic event. Radio Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has granted a presidential pardon and reduction of sentences for the benefit of 2,471 detainees. The meeting between the government and Walis or governors has wound up here in Algiers with a series of recommendations aimed at achieving sustainable local development. Prime Minister Nadir El-Arbawi has chaired a government meeting devoted to examining draft laws and presidential and executive decrees relating to insurance, higher education, the protection of forestry resources. The Palestinian Journalists Union has condemned the Israeli occupation massacre which claimed the lives of 5 journalists in the Nusayrat camp in the central part of the Gaza Strip. Hello and welcome on Radio Algeria International. I'm Jamal Sydney. The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has granted a presidential pardon and a reduction of sentences for the benefit of 2,471 detainees. A press release from the Presidency of the Republic indicated that a total pardon for non-incarcerated persons who have been definitively sentenced to a sentence of less than or equal to 24 months. A total pardon for detainees sentenced to a sentence of less than or equal to 18 months. The proceedings of the meeting between the government and Walis or governors has wound up here in Algiers with a series of recommendations aimed at achieving sustainable local development, addressing challenges related to food and water security, creating wealth and jobs, and digitalization and modernizing local public services. The closing ceremony of the meeting, held under the higher patronage of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, under the theme Local Authorities, Locomotive of National Development, was chaired by Prime Minister Nadir El-Arbawi in the company of the Minister of Interior Local Authorities, Brahim Arreda. In his speech at the closing ceremony, the Prime Minister indicated that the recommendations and proposals adopted are part of the guidelines of the President of the Republic in his opening speech of this meeting, where he called for deeper discussions on issues related to local development, including structuring projects with a regional vocation, reducing disparities in development, promoting the role of local authorities in addressing citizens' concerns, and improving the investment climate. Mr. El-Arbawi underlined that the meeting's objectives are part of a complementary approach aimed at diversifying the economy and consolidating national sovereignty by strengthening the foundations of food and water security, while placing the quality of life of the citizens at the heart of priorities when planning development programs.
لقد تابعت حقيقة باهتمام التوصيات والاقتراحات.
I have really followed with interest the recommendations and proposals that crowned the proceedings of these workshops, which were perfectly in line with the guidelines of the President of the Republic, announced during his opening speech, and calling for deepening the dialogue on issues relating to local development, notably structural projects with regional integration, reducing development disparities and increasing the role of local communities in addressing citizens' concerns and improving the investment climate as part of a global approach aimed at diversifying the national economy in order to consolidate national sovereignty by strengthening food and water security, as well as giving priority to the quality of life of citizens while elaborating development programs, defining priorities and setting deadlines.
مع تحديد الأولويات وضبط الأجال المحددة.
Referring to the main conclusions of the workshops organised on the occasion of this meeting, the Prime Minister stressed the importance of financial and budgetary levers to achieve balanced local socio-economic development, emphasising the need to combine efforts at the central and local levels of an optimal implementation of this system based on management by objectives and results in order to rationalise public spending and increase its efficiency. Mr. Larbawi emphasised that improving public services, modernising them and make them accessible for the citizens is one of the main axes of the government policy, as already pointed out by the President of the Republic. Digitisation, he went on to say, will help citizens get rid of the hurdles and hassle to obtain a document or finalise an administrative procedure.
هناك محور إضافي مهم لعملنا.
There is another important axis in our work which consists of improving public services, modernizing them and bringing them closer to the citizens, as emphasized by the President of the Republic during the opening session. This requires taking concrete and effective measures while pointing out that the efforts deployed in the field of digitization are likely and directly able to improve the citizens' daily life and spare them the daily hurdles to obtain a document or finalize a simple administrative procedure. In a broader level, we should redouble the efforts to make public services accessible to the inhabitants who are far from these services. In this respect, I would like to underline the paramount importance that the President of the Republic attaches to completing the digital transition project, which will allow for a radical change in the relations between the administration and the citizens through transparency and the fight against all forms of bureaucracy, in addition to eradicating corruption.
Prime Minister Mr. Nadir Larbawi has chaired a government meeting devoted to examining draft laws and presidential and executive decrees relating to insurance, higher education, the protection of forestry resources, in addition to listening to a presentation on the modernization of services provided by public services of justice. A press release from the Prime Minister's office indicated that the government meeting examined the law relating to social insurance aimed at guaranteeing the empowerment of women and the promotion of their rights, notably the extension of the duration of maternity leave, and this in execution of the commitments of the President of the Republic. Now, the Interior Minister, Mr. Brahim Merad, has affirmed in Algiers that the decisions announced by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, in his orientation speech at the opening of the meeting between the government and walis or governors, carry an innovative vision aimed at establishing a decentralized and equitable mode of governance in terms of development, promotion of public services, and improvement of the living conditions of citizens. Mohammed Khatil has the details.
In his speech at the closing ceremony of the meeting between the government and the walis or governors, chaired by the Prime Minister Mr. Nadir Larbawi, Mr. Merad indicated that the meeting was marked by an important orientation speech by the President of the Republic, which explained the content of the workshops and framed the debates, adding that this speech included relevant orientations to be implemented, each in their respective fields with the greatest care and rigor. After evoking the special attention paid by the President of the Republic to the process of digitizing all areas, Mr. Merad reaffirmed that all the policies and decisions of the President of the Republic aim to take care of the citizen and ensure a decent living environment.
We have come to the end of this meeting, which lasted 2 days and which allowed us to take advantage of the speech delivered by the President of the Republic, which set the broad lines on which we should work, and that's what we did during the workshops. There were 5 workshops and almost all the issues have been addressed, as all were related to the citizens, such as the improvement of their living conditions, likely to allow them to lead a comfortable life in a respectful environment, as well as wish an environment that will allow them to avoid all the danger that faces them, convivial environment. Rural and urban environments were also addressed, and firm instructions were given to the walis so that they act in this respect and ensure that the improvement be tangible. It's not about uttering words, but we should act that the policies decided on be appropriately conducted.
Mr. Merad also recalled that the participants in this meeting addressed in an interactive manner the various axes, registered and formulated consensual proposals between the central and local levels, stressing that these proposals include a certain number of provisions and mechanisms capable of accelerating the pace of the various projects underway and strengthening their effectiveness.
You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. The Secretary of State to the Minister of Foreign Affairs in charge of the national community abroad, Sofiane Shaib, has hailed the valuable participation of members of the national community abroad in the second international workshop on renewable energies being held in Algiers. Mr. Shaib took part in the second international workshop on renewable energies, which is being held in Algiers with the participation of a considerable number of national experts abroad specializing in the field of renewable energies. The President of the High Islamic Council, Mabrouk Zaid Al Khair, has received here in Algiers the Mauritanian scholar Sheikh Sidi Mohammed Ould Sheikh Sidia, who paid him a courtesy visit. Sheikh Sidia is one of Mauritania's eminent scholars and a symbol of the Qadiriya Brotherhood. He is highly ranked for his knowledge and his important scientific contributions. During the meeting, the two parties discussed the strengthening of bilateral relations, exchanged views on issues of common concern, and discussed the importance of joint efforts to promote modernization and the right balance. The Palestinian Journalists Union has condemned the Israeli occupation massacre committed at dawn on Thursday, which claimed the lives of 5 journalists by targeting a broadcast vehicle in front of El Ouda Hospital in Al Nusayrat camp in the central part of the Gaza Strip. Mohammed Khatel again.
The union said in a statement that this crime comes in the context of a series of ongoing Israeli attacks against Palestinian journalists, which target media professionals at all times and places in an attempt to obscure the truth and stifle freedom of expression. The union pointed out that more than 190 journalists and media workers have been killed since the beginning of the Israeli aggression on the Gaza Strip, which reflects the extent of the systematic targeting of Palestinian journalists. It pointed out that this ongoing targeting constitutes a war crime according to international conventions and constitutes a flagrant violation of human rights and freedom of the press. It called on the international community and all organizations concerned with human rights to provide urgent protection for Palestinian journalists and take practical steps to stop these crimes against them. It stressed that the Palestinian press will continue to carry out its mission with determination and resolve despite the occupation's continuous attempts to stop or threaten it.
The World Health Organization WHO has launched a 56.4 million flash appeal for Syria to meet the country's emergency health needs. Acting WHO representative in Syria, Christina Beckley, said that if fully funded, the WHO 6-month strategy aims to further strengthen trauma care, deploy ambulances, re-establish emergency services, restore maternal and child health services, strengthen disease surveillance, and enable rapid referral of patients. According to the UN, developments since the end of November have added new dimensions to the initial crisis, including the displacement of the population and the return of the Syrian refugees from neighboring countries. Benjamin Ledra and Sana Qutbi, 2 Swedish cyclists in solidarity with the Sahrawi people, have arrived in the Sahrawi refugee camps where they have been warmly received by the people and officials there. Radio Algeria International contacted Sana Qutbi, who told us about her arrival in the city of Bujdur.
So after 2.5 years biking through 26 countries and territories and over 340 cities across the world, we finally arrived in the Sahrawi refugee camps, and we were so well received by the people, the mayor, the Ministry of Youth and Sports, and all of the Sahrawi community. We arrived firstly in Bujdur refugee camps, where they held a conference for us, a small gathering where we got to listen to local music and nice speeches and a general welcoming from the community. And now we're staying with the Sahrawi family here.
Their presence in the Sahrawi refugee camps will provide an opportunity to hold an international conference in solidarity with the Sahrawi cause, bringing together human rights activists and organizations around the world. The 3-day conference is due to start on the 5th of January 2025. Mr. Sanakotbi told us more on the upcoming conference.
The conference will have many participants, almost 100 from many different countries. It will be people from Latin America, Europe, Africa, Asia, different places. And the purpose of the gathering is to raise awareness about Western Sahara, since many of them are visiting the camps for the first time. So we want to introduce them to the occupation, to the life in the refugee camps, the struggle in general. And then it's also in order for people to meet each other from different solidarity communities, because we know that there are many people who feel solidarity for Western Sahara, and they maybe sometimes feel alone in their work. So we want people to be able to meet and coordinate future campaigns together. So we're really looking forward to this, and some of the first participants are arriving in just a few days, and we'll be busy welcoming them and organizing meetings in the camps. So we're really, really happy to finally arrive here in the camps.
It is noteworthy that the two activists chose to ride bicycles over a distance of 30,000 kilometers around the world for more than 2 years to speak and connect directly with people and highlight the Sahrawi cause. This is Radio Algeria International. Stay tuned.